Right. Well, welcome, Peter, and thank you for joining us. We have a few
Uh,
questions for you.
my pleasure. In fact, I've had work in the gallery over the years, and I've always enjoyed the association with the gallery.
That's wonderful. I'm glad you've been a part of it.
Have.
Um,
Yeah.
we love your piece. It's really
Oh,
interesting.
yeah.
And we have a few questions for you.
Ah.
So, starting off, tell us a little bit about the relationship of the main figure and Icarus, who had lost his wings.
Okay. The idea for the painting, of course, came out of the COVID virus. That's just ravaging the United States and the world, actually. And I think it was back in April of this year. I was watching a news show on the virus, and it had just started to really rev up. And one of the stories on the news was about. It showed a number of young people who were in, the bars and in the, these different going to concerts and stuff. And there was a lot of criticism back then about them not taking this seriously. And the image that, when I was watching it, the image that popped into my head was a story of Icarus. And and the story of Icarus, of course, is about this. It's a Greek mythology, and it's this young man, Icarus. He and his father had lived in Crete, the island of Crete, as the story goes. And the king of Crete had asked Icarus's father to build a maze to hold the famous Minotaur, which is the creature with the half body, half bull, which he did. His father built it, but the king got a little suspicious. He didn't want anybody to know about the maze that he had built. So he kind of imprisoned both Icarus and his father. Icarus got a great idea. He said, I'm going to build some wings out of feathers and wax, and we're going to fly out of here. So he did. But the father said to Icarus, before they took off, he said, please listen to me. He said, do not fly near the sun. He said, because if you do, with the wax wings, they're going to melt and you're going to crash into the ocean. Well, of course, Icarus being young, being complacent, whatever, he did. He flew too high and his wings melted and he crashed into the ocean and he passed away from that. So I made the connection of Icarus being young and not listening to his father. He was being, he was overconfident, he was being complacent, and I was seeing the connection there. So that's basically where the original image and the idea for the painting came from. And I thought from that I would build. So then I did some research. I wondered if there were any paintings of Icarus and his father flying and his wings melting, whatever. And sure enough, back in the Renaissance period, there was a number of paintings. And there was one artist by the name of Jacob Goyes who had done a painting, which is, I duplicated part of it in my painting of the Icarus situation, or the calamity that followed. And I found out that had public domain, so there was no problem there with using the image. And from that, I built on it. It's like, what other images can I use to play off of this theme? And I was able to come up with some visuals of people in masks, of course, and also people. There's also the scene in the background of the main causeway in Venice, and you see where he's splashing in. And beyond that, people say, "Why'd you pick that?" Well, I don't have to explain. I don't want to explain everything, because what happens, I think, my feeling about some of that, and when people look at the painting, is the viewer also has a responsibility to do some homework. If I give too much, then I'm taking away your ability to be able to read into the painting and give me some feedback. I've had paintings in the past where people have told me things about a particular piece that I didn't even realize was in the painting that I had done. And because I had done a series of paintings a number of years ago with using flags as an example. And I had one painting I had done of a train, a an Amtrak train, and had it in the gallery. And someone came up to me and said, I see you can't get away from that red, white, and blue flag thing, huh? And I said, well, what are you talking about? And they said, well, look at the Amtrak train that you painted. It's got the red, white, and blue stripes on it. And I thought, oh my God, I didn't even notice that. So there's that type of stuff that goes on in a painting. And so I got some of those elements together. I went into Photoshop, which I do, with some of the imagery, and I put this together size-wise and stuff. And so it built itself. And then there's, of course, everybody asked me about the little guy at the top, the spaceman. And why I put him there is, as much as all of this is going on in the world, life still goes on. And one of the things that we don't pay much attention to is that we have people living in space. We have a space station. We have astronauts that are there from all over the world that go back and forth. So I thought, okay, so that's a symbol of life going on. It's going to continue. And at some point, space exploration will continue and whatever. So I try to mix those elements into it, and hopefully that people can kind of get that, can get some of that feeling and imagery from what I've done in the painting.
Well, I actually thought that it meant that COVID has clipped our wings because we're not able to fly all over the place.
Like that.
Very much, we all were interested in the colors that you use, sort of the old world colors of the top part of the painting and the very modern. And so how you used your color palette to reinforce the story.
Well, I don't necessarily go looking for particular colors, but what I do is when I may collect a number of images, and I will start playing with those images in contrast to each other. And sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. Sometimes there's too much darkness in the two pieces together, or there might be too much color in one and not in another. So it's really kind of a subjective thing of how I work with that. And I'm not necessarily looking for particular colors at that point. If I were doing maybe another style of painting, or maybe just painting a landscape or, a cityscape, I might be more concerned about colors and contrast and light and how it's hitting the building and stuff. But in some of these paintings, it's more the photograph or the image that I'm using that's dictating some of that.
I sort of describe this painting as surrealist, but it's not really realist, but yeah. So how would you describe it?
A friend of mine who's an artist said, I think you're like a pop surrealist.
That's interesting.
I did. Yeah. I like that. I think I'm going to use that.
I do too, because we were sort of stuck into what category to put you in, because realism is really
and that's good. And as I've gone, my work's evolved. I think your work. If you look at your work after 10 years and you're still doing the same type of painting, I think you're kind of in a rut. And some artists will argue with me about that. They'll say, "Well, I just like to do landscapes." Okay, but isn't there more you want? It's got to be something else you want to say. And so my work has been evolving, and over the last few years, I've tried to introduce more contemporary topics, things that are going on today. I've got a few pieces right now in the Attleboro Art Museum show, and one is called, it has to do with the rainforest, the burning of the rainforest, called Endangered. And then I have another one. I was into fire for a while, and there's another one called On Fire, and it's got some images of the planes pouring that red stuff down on the flames. And then I've got a picture of a city kind of on fire, and I glued some matchsticks to it, and it's to try to come up with this contemporary feel for what fire is. And so I've been trying to push the work a little more into that, even into more of the contemporary. I have two artists that really have had a big effect on my work over the last 2 years. Was Malcolm Morley, who recently passed away. He was in his 80s, and he was basically kind of the father of superrealism. And he started that whole movement years ago. And then his work evolved, but he got very creative. He had a lot of fun over the years with his work. He used history in his paintings, which a lot of painters stay away from. So he influenced me a lot. And another guy on the West Coast is Ed Ruscha, who's a West Coast artist today, very popular, and into the urban Western landscape of the Los Angeles area, and very contemporary work. So I try to push the work in that direction, and I feel comfortable with it. I mean,
Great, thank you.
It's a very eclectic style.
Yeah, no, it's great. We love it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great to see you explore and evolve over time.
Well, I think I love to talk about it, and it's nice to be able to to be able to share this. Yeah. All right. I appreciate it very much.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much.